Ritwik.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. So, Ritwik, let's start. So, tell me something about yourself.
So, should I on my camera or continue?
Yeah, please.
Okay, am I visible and audible?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we can continue.
Tell me about yourself, Ritwik.
So my name is Ritwik. I reside in Delhi. So my previous experiences include, like I was working in Amdocs for a couple of times. So my project included cloud migration program. So my primary task as a platform engineer was to migrate the applications for the production environment for POC, non-prod and prod, and using Terraform with the help of target architecture. Other project was a BSSE project, which included, it was already deployed, and my task was to change the code as per the QE team meeting and push that code into the Jenkins and run the deployments. So that code was pushed into the Nexus first, and then the Bitbucket we used to do the changes, and then using Jenkins pipeline we used to, run the pipeline manually, one in the morning and one in the afternoon as per the requirement, and then we used to deploy that. And previous experience include when I was working in KMG IT services. So they had various clients. So after I had joined that company, so after 6 months cloud was introduced there. So I had to go to various clients for the deployments, and whatever they were doing, I was a part of those teams and assisted them and got some exposure of cloud from there. And before that, I was working in Cisco Global Technologies as a full-time network engineer. So my experience was, my profile there was a full-fledged network engineer. So the projects I carried out were, one was SME and one was value support, in which my task was to guide the field engineers regarding network-related issues who were spread all over India. And prior to that, I was working with HCL Technologies on the third-party payroll of Futuresoft. So I joined there as a desktop support engineer, plus I used to do basic networking, plus one project, DBI project I was the part of. So that's include my experience, so which is a total of 5 years and 10 months.
So how many companies you have served, Ritwik, in 5 years?
4. HCL Technologies, Cisco Global Technologies, and then KMG IT Services, and then Amdocs.
Amdocs is joined in April 2021.
Yes.
Your resume says, are you still working with Amdocs or you have left Amdocs?
I have left Amdocs because I was a third party resource there. So my project got completed. So they asked me that since your project is completed, so we cannot continue further.
Okay.
And that project was supposed to be completed in 2024 as per AT&T.
So you are looking for a job now, or
Yes.
you already have some offers with you?
Right now I don't have any offer, just giving interviews.
Okay. So what kind of certifications you have done? I'm just going to go through that.
So previously I had a CCNA certification, but I was preparing for the AWS associate certification, but in Amdocs they asked me to prepare for the Azure. So actually I got diverted there.
Yeah.
So after I join, I will continue with the certifications part.
So what's the basic difference between IaaS, PaaS and SaaS?
IaaS is an infrastructure as a service, PaaS is a platform as a service, and SaaS is a software as a service. So if I talk in the layman terms, so if I talk about my laptop, so it is an IaaS, infrastructure as a service, because it is giving me the infrastructure on the top of it. I can deploy anything. Platform means that if I need any platform upon which I will develop my infrastructure. So we can treat operating system as a the platform, and the software as a service is all the applications which are accessed by the end users. So those are treated as software as a service.
Any kind of SaaS environments that you worked on?
Yeah, actually the designation was platform engineer only. So I used to create the resources for the production environment using Terraform.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my core task.
So what's the basic difference between Terraform and TerraGrunt?
Yeah, Terraform, actually TerraGrunt I have not used, I have only heard of. It is like Terraform, but mainly I have worked in Terraform. TerraGrunt was used in my BSSC project, but I was not actually part of it.
So what have been your routine activities in Amdocs, day-to-day activities?
Day-to-day activities included, if I talk about the client migration program, so my first task was that my team leader used to have a meeting with the concerned application team. So the application teams used to, based on the feasibility checks and the priority, used to assign us the applications to be migrated. So after that, our team leader asked me to do the ADO onboarding. So ADO onboarding means that it was a AT&T specific thing. So in that we had a portal in which we had to fill in a lot of entries, and after that the DevOps, non-prod and prod environment automatically used to create in the Azure portal. And after the ADO onboarding was completed, we were supposed to create the POC environment. So POC is basically the proof of concept environment in which we have to make the environment and tell to application team what it will look like. So it is basically it is a replica kind of thing. So after that it was passed, we used to build non-prod and prod. So after the application was deployed, so POC was destroyed. So when we used to hand over the application, that thing was known as the cutover. And other than that, in Terraform we had various types of different kinds of files. So those were tf.was file. So we didn't use the single file main.tf for the building the infrastructure. We had a separate file for each individual resource. Like I want to deploy the load balancer, so I will have a different file for load balancer, for routing table different, and for databases we had different. So in that way. And regarding dependencies, we use variables.yml. So if we want to destroy any resource, so we will check the dependencies and set the destroy variable as true or false.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell me about a critical project that you worked on?
Yes, that was the BSSC project, but I was on the part of it. So that project had around 1000 VMs, but I was only given a part of it. So like I have told you, in the morning time we used to get the changes, and we used to push those changes using Jenkins, and if any error used to come, then we will fix that error, and in the Scrum meeting we will inform a manager what is the status. So I was a part of that project for 2 months only, because specifically I was hired for cloud migration program only. So
give me some brief about the challenges that you have faced in that project. I couldn't understand the challenges you're talking about.
Okay, so in cloud migration program, sometimes what happened was, I was new to the Terraform, so I had deleted the resource manually. So the Terraform state files were giving errors. So we had a discussion with the team and not to delete any resource manually. And other than that, we used to face errors while deploying the resources. So my task was to clear those resources. So let's say sometimes I am running an deployment, so any plugging related issues were coming, or either so we had to resolve this. So when we used to run the deployment, so the error codes used to come, and we used to clear those errors. Other than that, sometimes the BSSC project was deployed in the Kubernetes. So if that Jenkins portal is not working, so we used to restart the pods and kill those pods and deploy them back again. So such type of errors we used to face. And sometimes there was a dependency on other team. They were running the deployments, and those used to continue to run till the morning time. So that used to give us a clash. So these kind of issues.
What kind of clash are you talking about?
Clashes means that if somebody else is working and if we are getting conflicts with them, so our team leaders used to have a meeting with them, and then it used to be clear. And other than that, sometimes I was working like EC2 instances were getting slow or not working properly. So, and the status check is 0/2 or 1/2. So either to take images as a snapshot of them and creating back them again and restarting. So basic troubleshooting we had to do every time.
What is that? How do you troubleshoot an performance issue on EC2?
So there are various steps. So first of all, we will check either if it is connected to any monitoring resource. So we will check based on the parameters. So that is the first troubleshooting step, and we will check the status, like it is always 2/2. So it is 0/2 or 1/2. That means the IC2 is giving an error. So either we can restart it, or we can take a snapshot of it and then redeploy it again, or check its connectivity. So these type of things.
What happens when you are restarting an EC2 instance? What happens to the connected applications?
So for that, during that time, those application will go down. So if those are critical applications, so first of all, we will have to make the replica and run those applications on another server, and then troubleshoot the primary one. Or else, the best option is to create the disaster recovery. So in one of the application, that was the FirstNet GIS, I had created a disaster recovery. But instead of using GRS, I used LRS, and the storage I used cold instead of hot, because it was not used frequently. So as per the requirement for that particular application, we had to create the disaster recovery. And there was a separate environment for that was known as the dr.yaml, and the code was stored in Azure repository only.
So I can't get you basically. So if you are having some issues with an EC2, your application will go down. Otherwise, you are suggesting you need to have an DR kind of a setup, right?
Yeah, and other than that, in production environment, we never use a single EC2 instance. We always apply multiple EC2 instances and do auto scaling and load balancing. Because
how does that really work? How does that? For example, if I have an active connection on one EC2, right, and that EC2 instance goes down due to whatever maintenance activity you are doing because of performance. So how does the connections get transferred from one node to the other?
So in auto scaling and load balancing, there are continuous health checks. So the EC2 instance which is giving the unhealthy status will go down, and new will be created in auto scaling, and in the load balancing, the connection will go to the healthy instances.
So that is for the new connections, right? What about to the connections which are already established there? Connections which are already running onto that particular node which you are taking down for maintenance. You said, right, you used to take down the EC2 node for performance. Sometimes you have to restart.
Taking down means if we can, first of all, we have to bring either the other EC2 instances with the same configuration, and then do the maintenance. And by connection, we mean that if we are troubleshooting anything, so for that particular time we will have to stop the connection, or else we will terminate and create a new EC2 instance altogether.
What kind of monitoring technologies you have worked on?
So in as far as my MDocs experience is concerned, so we used to do the Azure Insights, and other than that, CloudWatch, Nagios, and a little bit of Prometheus and Grafana.
Okay, so how does that really work? So how does those really help you?
So those gifts are the metrics as per our requirements. So in Prometheus, I have used the CPU metrics, and so there are various type of metrics. So, and other than that,
so Insights is also giving you the same metric, right? So what's the difference between Insight and Prometheus then? Why using two?
so as per the project requirement, Prometheus I was deployed in. I was a part of the team for the deployment of Prometheus in KMG, and MB was the client. So I was there on the deployment, and the insights were used in Amdocs. So based upon the subscription and the project requirements we have.
So how does Prometheus really collecting the data?
That I don't remember right now. I used it.
But you were part of the deployment team, right?
I was around 1 to 1.5 years back. I was the deployment team. So one are the pull based and one are the push based monitoring tool. One take the logs and one push the codes. So logically, I think it is a pull based mechanism, Prometheus, and we have to use certain.
How does it really pull? On what protocol does it really pull?
That I don't remember.
Okay, so you talked about Prometheus, right? So why do people talk about Grafana along with Prometheus?
So Grafana.
Can you use any other tool?
Sorry, Grafana is a more GUI rich. I mean, you can pull Prometheus or Nagios into Grafana because it is more GUI rich. That's the thing. Grafana is in itself is nothing. We have to. There is a data. Grafana also I had used 1 year back, so I had a data source option. So from there we could pull Prometheus, and then we used to get the more feature rich graphs. Because I have used Prometheus, so those gives a very basic kind of graphs.
That's about your infrastructure monitoring. How about your monitoring of any logs or audit logs? What kind of tools you have used for that?
So logging tools are different. So Splunk is one tool which collects the logs, and other are Kafka, etc. But Kafka I have not used. And one
Kafka is used for log analysis.
Kafka is I think also a monitoring tool, but I have no exposure in Kafka. Splunk I have deployed for one client.
Okay, so what does Splunk actually do?
Splunk will collect the logs. It is a logging mechanism.
So from where? What kind of logs does Splunk really collect? From your EC2 instance you're talking about?
Yes, basically I was part of the installation part only.
But where have you installed? That's my question with it.
In the, EC2 instances only.
So you are installed on a EC2 instance Splunk, right?
Yes, on the Linux Linux based server, and hand over it to the client.
That's it. So basically you just did a kind of a stall of the Splunk client, I could say. Right?
So these kind of monitoring tools I was using 1 to 1.5 years back. So right now I am not able to recollect all of them because for the past 1 year I have been in Azure only. That's the thing.
Okay. So on Azure, what kind of load balancing I have available with me? What kind of ELBs are available for me?
I had used a single load balancer only.
What is single load balancer? What does that mean?
As per the target architecture, the we used to deploy the load balancer using Terraform only. So types of load balancers in Azure, I don't have idea. In AWS,
I couldn't get the understanding of a single load balancer. I really don't understand that.
Single load balancer is, in the target architecture only load balancer was mentioned, and in the Terraform script we had a load balancer file only. So we used to deploy that file. In AWS I can explain load balancers very clearly.
Go ahead, give me some explanation of load balancer. What kind of ELBs are available on AWS?
So in AWS there are 4 types of load balancer. One is application load balancer, one is network load balancer, one is gateway load balancer, and one is classic load balancer. So if we are using the less critical applications which have certain spikes and throws and the request based applications, so for that we use application load balancer. So that works for layer 7 protocols, HTTP and HTTPS. And if we need the if applications are very critical and with high throughputs and we need very less latency along with the HTTP and HTTPS functionality, I mean application load balancing mechanism. So for that we will use network load balancer. So the protocols used are TCP, TLS and UDP. Gateway load balancer is used for the security kind of purpose, and classic load balancer was used for the classic EC2 instances when classic networking was used in AWS. So classic load balancer will be retired on 15th of August 2022 as per their documentation. And if I talk about the
okay, good. That's I understand that what you are sort of talking about. So tell me one thing: what kind of load balancer you are using in Amdocs?
So in Amdocs, I mean, we had in the script we had a load balancer only mentioned, and we used to make the code and then push. I never paid heed to what kind of load balancer was that.
Okay. ALB, you talked about layer 7, right? So what is layer 7? What is layer 4? What is layer 3?
Layer 4.
Tell me what is layer 3?
Layer 3 is
Layer
routing.
3.
Layer 4 is network, and layer 7 is application as per the OSI model. So instance IP lambda we can use in application load balancer, and like instance IP and application load balancer in network load balancer, and routing in gateway load balancer.
What do you mean routing? Load balancer are there for routing, right? To balance the load?
Yes. So gateway load balancer is specifically for that. If we want to deploy any load balancer on a public facing internet, so for there we can use internet gateway load balancer. So gateway load balancer I have not deployed yet.
So what's a proxy and reverse proxy?
Proxy means I mean, if we want to do the port mapping and so that thing is known as proxy.
And reverse proxy?
Reverse proxy is basically in Nginx we use the reverse proxy. It is basically.
Can those proxy servers be used as my load balancers?
Proxy servers as load balancers.
Can I configure? Let me take it differently. Can I configure about configuring my ALB or NLB or gateway load balancers as proxy servers or reverse proxy servers, whatever? Okay, no worries.
This
so
I have not.
You talked about Lambda, right? I think we just touched upon Lambda or something.
Yeah, Lambda I have a little bit exposure, so it is a serverless computing.
Serverless. So what does serverless mean?
Serverless means if we want to deploy any code, so we will keep our code there, and there is no server required there. So the events are triggered. So in that way we use Lambda.
So in terms of the load balancers, is there any kind of a load balancer which is kind of serverless, meaning basically you don't have to deploy it upfront in terms of the cost and all?
Actually, please pardon?
Let me just rephrase that. In terms of the load balancers, right? You just discussed theoretically about ALB, NLB and all that. So which is basically more cheaper for you to deploy?
I think application load balancer is more cheaper.
Why?
Because it provides less functionality. Costing I never observed.
No, just your thought.
Logically, application load balancer will be cheaper because network load balancer is responsible for the providing the services which with a very less latency and the very high speed connectivity.
So What about your stateful and stateless applications? What are those?
Stateful means if inbound is allowed, outbound is also allowed, and in stateless, if inbound is allowed, we have to explicitly allow outbound rules as well for greater security. So if I talk about the stateful, so we use network security groups, and for the stateless we use network access lists. So access lists are deployed on the whole or only on the subnet, and the other one is used for EC2 instances, network security groups.
And any choice of databases you have for such applications?
Databases specifically, I don't have any idea. I used to create MySQL in the Terraform for.
What is MySQL?
MySQL is a type of a database.
What type of? Sorry, I couldn't get you.
It's a structural type of database. Structured query.
What do you mean by structure?
Structure means in the tabular form.
And the other databases are non-tabular.
So,
give me an example of structured database. One is MySQL, you said. What are the others?
There's databases I use only to create. So my task as a platform engineer was only to create the databases and hand over it to the database administrators. So those continue from there.
Okay, fair enough, Ritvik. You have any questions for me, Ritvik?
No, not as of now.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ritvik. I appreciate your time. Actually, I think you joined 3 minutes earlier as well. So which is really good. Sometimes candidates join a bit later.
No,
but I think, yeah. Okay, thanks, Ritvik. You take care.
Okay, thank you, sir. Have a nice day.